children. Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
I hope you are all fine and safe.
Yes, ma'am. You too.
Okay, we'll go back to the today's lesson.
Okay, ma'am. Sure. Shall we go?
Shall we go to the next lesson, children?
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, children. I hope everybody is fine and safe at home. Children, today we are going to learn an interesting topic, how to celebrate your life to be alive. During this lockdown period, many of us are staying at home. We know the purpose because we wanted to save our life from this virus, right? So here the author, Dr. Bernard, he has explained everything in this lesson. Now today's topic is In Celebration of Being Alive by Dr. Christian Bernard. So what is he explaining in this lesson? Let us see now. See, this lesson is an extract from his speech. Okay, he has given 13 points in this lesson. I have made it very short for you. See, he just tells that in celebration of being alive, it is a short story by Dr. Christian Bernard, who was the first person to perform the heart transplantation. He could not understand sufferings. He gives an account of being alive to be a boon in human life. He also narrates an experience which has changed his perspective of life in the later part of the story. So we are going to learn the story into two parts. The first 6 points will be explained to you in part 1 with the author's introduction, and in the later part of the story, how Bernard has changed his life and how he started to celebrate his life in living alive. And that is what is being explained in this lesson. Dr. Christian Bernard, you can see here, that is, Christian Eng-Vid9i was born in rural South Africa in the year 1922 to poor parents as their fourth child. He evinced great interest in his academics and was determined to pursue medicine after the loss of his brother to the cardiac ailment. He won many scholarships and pursued his higher studies, specializing in cardiac surgery. Cardiac surgery means heart surgery. As a cardiac surgeon, Bernard focused on congestional and complicated cardiac conditions for which there was no cure at that time. After experimenting with heart transplantation of animals, he performed the world's first human-to-human heart transplant in the year 1967. He gained worldwide recognition and went on to develop many surgery techniques which are being adopted till date. Bernard was penned 14 books of 235 scientific articles that have been published in reputed journals. Some of his books are One Life, 500 Ways to a Healthy Heart, The Best Medicine, and The Faith. A pioneer in cardiac surgery, he obtained a doctorate in medicine from the University of Cape Town. This was followed by 11 honorary doctorates bestowed upon him by universities all over the world. He has also received 36 international awards. In his late years, he established the Christian Bernard Foundation to serve and promote the cause of underprivileged children throughout the world and died at the age of 78 in the year 2001. This is all about the author, children. We will learn in detail about the lesson now. See, we all know that Dr. Christian Bernard he is a doctor to perform the heart transplant surgery. Here we have an extract of his speech wherein he narrates an experience which has changed his perspective of life altogether. Let's find out what led to such a dramatic transformation. So Bernard is just going to explain about how people are suffering in this world. Though he is an heart surgeon, he has come to recognize about the people who are suffering in this world. See, first point, I already told you that there are 13 points and I have made it very short for you. See the first paragraph in your reader. You have that first point there. More and more, as a near and the end of my career as a heart surgeon, my thoughts have turned to the consideration of why people should suffer. Consideration here means that is careful thought. That is, suffering seems so cruelly prevalent. Prevalent means common in the world today. Do you know that of the 125 million children born this year, 12 million are unlikely to reach the age of 1 and another 6 million will die before the age of 5. And of the rest, many will end up as a mental or physical cripples. Cripples means one who are disabled. The people who don't have hands or legs and they will not be able to perform their work. Okay, children, now listen here. You have 3 synonyms here. Consideration, I told you, carefully thought. That is, prevalent is common. Cripples, I said, the disabled people. See, in this first paragraph, what Bernard is explaining here is always his thoughts are turned to consideration. He always have a special consideration for the people who suffer in this world. And he is telling that prevalent, the prevalent word is used here. Suffering seems to be prevalent. See, we all know that. Can we tell that anybody that we don't suffer in this world? Everybody is having suffering in this world. So Bernard's question is why people suffer and die. And he's explaining that nearly 125 million children born in this year and 12 million are unlikely to reach the age of 1 and another 6 million will die before the age of 5. So, and some people will be physically affected and mentally affected, and so many deaths occur in this world only because of this suffering. And he's further explaining that my gloomy thoughts probably stem from an accident I had a few years ago. One minute I was crossing the street with my wife after a lovely meal together, and the next minute a car had hit me and knocked me into my wife. She was thrown into the other lane and struck by a car coming from the opposite direction. So what is happening here? He met with an accident with whom? With his wife, and he has explained that how he has met with an accident and been hospitalized in the hospital. During the next few days in the hospital, I experienced not only agony. Agony means a severe pain, okay? And that is mental disturbance, mental stress, what he has to undergo in the hospital because his wife and both of them were being admitted in the hospital. And fear, but also anger. I could not understand why my wife and I had to suffer. I had 11 broken ribs and perforated lung. My wife had a badly fractured shoulder. Over and over, I asked myself, why should this happen to us? I had to work to do. After all, there were patients waiting for me to operate on them. My wife had a young baby who needed her care. See, what is he explaining here? He is just telling that I am having an extreme physical and mental suffering. And what is happening here? My wife's lung is also having, is being fully, affected. And my wife had badly fractured shoulder. Over and over, I asked myself, why should this happen to me and my wife? See, children, God will allow suffering in our life, but we cannot go and question God why this has happened in our life. Bernard doesn't believe doesn't believe that God is only allowing the suffering in our life, because his father used to tell Bernard that suffering which comes only from God. and somehow God will make us to come out of that suffering. So Bernard's question is always that even he was working as an heart surgeon, what is he telling? That he is just telling, I always see the patients lying in the hospital, the little children and everybody else used to suffer in the hospital, and how can I call this that God is there? And he was not having so much trust in God. And apart from this, me and my wife and I got met with an accident, and finally we are being hospitalized, and I'm also having a small child, and to whom that a child is to be given care. And what is he telling? That I'm a very famous heart surgeon. I have so much responsibilities to go to the hospital and to do many surgeries, for many people will be waiting for me. And that is what he's telling. My wife had a young baby who needed her care, and there were patients waiting for me to operate on them. But I'm being admitted in the hospital, and he's questioning that why should this happen to us? See, in his fourth point, Bernard is just giving an explanation here. My father, had he still been alive, would have said, my son, it's God's will. That is the way God tests you. Suffering ennobles you, make you a better person. What do you understand from this paragraph, children? Here Bernard is telling that if my father is alive, he will just tell that, my son, it is God's will. We cannot go and question God, why this happened to me in my life. So most of you would have been suffering in this world. So what is he telling? And we cannot, suffering ennobles. He's telling suffering, once you suffer, makes you a better person. Only when you receive a discouragement or failure in your life, you will learn more. Only when you commit mistakes, you will learn more, and you will become a better person in your living world. So that is what Bernard is trying to tell here. What is he telling? You cannot tell anything that is the way God tests you. God will allow suffering, and you have to bear the suffering. And for what He is giving a suffering to you all? Only to make you a better person in this living world. So unless you cross suffering, you will not learn anything out of it. Only when you suffer, you will know the problems and the feelings of others. And then only you can lead a successful life. In the fifth point, what is he telling? But as a doctor, I see nothing noble in a patient thrashing around in a sweat-soaked bed, mind clouded in agony, nor can I see any nobility in crying of a lonely child in a ward at night. What is he telling? As a doctor and a patient, that is, I see nothing noble. His father is telling ennobles. He's telling God only has given suffering. But what is he telling? I can see nothing noble, because when I go to the hospital, if I see the suffering and the burden of the children crying and the patients lying in the bed, I cannot tell that it is ennobles you. Suffering ennobles you, because it is thrashing around and clouded in agony. Everybody is suffering in pain. And nor I can see any nobility in the crying of a lonely child in a ward at night. So he always talks about suffering, and is admitting that the people are suffering in this world. Then further on, he explains that in his sixth point, in those days, they didn't have sophisticated heart surgery. I have always found that suffering of children particularly heartbreaking, especially because of their total trust in doctors and nurses. So what is he telling? In those days, in life living in the past, nowadays in the modern world, we have so many sophisticated facilities. But in those days, the heart surgeries are very difficult, and the people will not be having that much facility as we have in nowadays. And of the total trust in doctors and nurses. So the people in the past, what they will do, they will put total trust only in doctors and nurses. If a doctor is taking care and getting the heart surgery well done, that means what? They are putting the total trust in the doctor and also the nurse. If he is not doing his job properly, what will happen to the patients? The patients will die. So they believe you are going to help them. If you can't, they accept their fate. They go through mutilating surgery and afterwards they don't complain. So what the people are trying to tell here, they have to undergo so many surgeries. Mutilating surgery here means surgery involving removal of tissues even at the risk of worsening of the patient's condition. So what is he telling? Everybody is trusting me that I will go to the hospital and treat the patients. But what is happening to me now? I am treating so many people and I am seeing every day their suffering. But unfortunately, my wife and I happened to met with an accident. And finally, we are being here in the hospital. And my question is, why this suffering come to both of us? Because we have a small child and we are not able to take care of the child as well as the patients. Everybody is anxiously waiting for us to come to the hospital. Children, I will stop with this 6 points, and the remaining 6 points we will do it in the next class. But what are we going to learn in the next class is what is going to happen and how Bernard is going to change his life and celebrate his life of being alive with the example of 2 boys. That is what we are going to learn in the next part of the lesson. Children, I would like to remind you, I hope that you are able to understand the lesson, how Bernard was just talking about suffering. And the next thing, what did I say? You cannot question God, why this suffering for us, and God will make to overcome from the suffering in this world. In the later part of the lesson, we will learn the second part of the story, how the 2 boys, the little boys who changed Dr. Bernard living in this world and celebrating the life of being alive. So children, I have given you the assignment questions. After watching this video, you are going to write the test for the 5 questions what is being given. Then you are doing the Kahoot, and after that you are going to do your quizzes. And then what are you going to do? You are going to take your reader and read the lesson and just learn what are the things given over here. Till we meet in the next class, children. Till that, let us celebrate our life of being alive. Okay, children? Thank you.